Yes, indeed. We are in the 80s, and some parts of Texas are even warmer than low 80s. They're close up to 90. I saw Austin with about 86 only a few hours ago, and some parts of South Texas are up in the 90s right now. So we're getting definitely a southwesterly component driving that bit of April and May that we've got going on. This is the temperatures at the Sour, 84 at Uvalde, 85 at Del Rio. And you can kind of see the trajectory has a very strong downslope appearance to it. It's originating from that plateau region of northwest Mexico and New Mexico. And as a result, we're getting that adiabatic warming as it descends from about 5,000 to 6,000 feet down to near sea level. So we get that very rapid warming. The cold front, however, is well to the north, surprisingly. Center of the low pressure area, north of Salina. Triple Point looks like just north of Manhattan. And extending southwest from there, cold front. And warm front across Missouri. And that's where we're seeing some thunderstorms at this hour. And let me switch over to the radar. Actually, we'll start with the satellite. This is how things looked a couple of hours ago on the visible. And you can see thunderstorms. This is out around Columbia, south to about Rolla. And as we roll through the next couple of hours towards sunset, you can see they're tracking very quickly to the east, coming up into the St. Louis area. And it looks like trailing that system is this area of possibly what looks like an upper level low there. So this is probably a little bit more elevated. And then this convection here is a little bit more surface based. The radar at this time looking like that. It's already coming into the St. Louis area. Looks very patchy up to the north. Looks like multicellular activity. And it picks up more of a line appearance as we go further south down Interstate 44. And then further south it looks like there is some elevated convection in this area. So the best storms at this time, probably along the leading edge of that. There's a slight bowish structure that might indicate a little bit of outflow taking place in this area here. So probably some good shots out in this region. And also up to the north, this looks probably a little bit more immersed in rain. But there could be some potential up in that area too with that good feed of southwesterly flow coming up from the south there. All right, let me take a look at the chat here, make sure everything's looking good. Okay, we've got Sue M here looking for rain. Out there in the Midwest, Erica Baker reporting Coffeyville, Kansas, red flag warning, temperatures up to the 80s, gusts up to 35. Funwood Tech is here, and Thomas Copeland, Shirley Keast, Ron Chalfont, looking for more rain and snow. Yeah, they're getting into an active weather pattern out there in California. Storm Spotter Apex is here. Some places in Texas saw record highs. Maybe I'll try to pull up that chart and see what the highs were. Adam Davis reporting 19 degrees in Clarion, Pennsylvania. Can't believe it's still so cold up there. Funwood Tech putting out a plug there for weatherclan.com/meteorology lab urls.html. So we'll have to check that out. Got Carl Berghoff here, Chris Tyne, asking for a way to view images from GOES 17. I'm not too sure about that. I'm going to leave that to you guys. I have not. If we're talking about GOES 17, that new satellite, I'm not too sure yet. Lexi Pinkson Walsh is here. And Burl H. Sue M reporting audio is good. And David Moore reporting a very warm day in the Metroplex. Well, if we want to get to the high temperatures, one way to do it is to go to Colorado State. And let me see if I can bring this up. Let me just put in weather, DIFAX, Colorado State. That's one way of doing it. That goes to their DIFAX weather map archive. We go to the maximum temperatures, and then we just find the current date here. And it's the 16th. I don't know, that's going to be yesterday's. We don't have the current chart in. It doesn't appear that they arrive until, and I'm looking at the date stamp, it's going to be about, I'm going to assume that's, I can see a change here around daylight savings. I'm going to guess that product is going to come up in about 7 minutes here, so we don't quite have that. That's one of the pitfalls of doing our webcast so close to 0Z. So I'll just leave it up for now. Elsewhere, let's look at the 250 millibar analysis, get the latest chart, and find out where the jet energy is. And looks like a lot of it is to the south. Looks like kind of a combined subtropical jet flow. Subtropical jet is to the south, out around Del Rio, Lake Charles, and Tallahassee. And then up to the north, we've got the polar front jet coming in around San Francisco into Grand Junction, and then arcing around towards Montana. Downstream, we've got the ridge located right there. Keep in mind that this is about 12 hours old. We don't have the current chart just yet. However, you can see that trough digging into Kansas and Oklahoma this morning. So very likely that trough is moved out towards Missouri at this time. Now, if we really need that current chart, what we can do is we can go to SPC, go to their experimental products, and that'll bring up the rapid refresh version. Actually, let me just take a quick look. These are the objective analysis charts. These come from the actual radiosonde data. Let me see if there's any information. Nope. So even they are old at SPC. So this is the observed data for yesterday. So if we want to get plots, what we can do is we can just go to digital atmosphere. So let me run that through. That's one of the advantages of having a tool that I wrote. And there you go. There's the 250 millibar plots. And I don't have the vorticity and height field, but we can kind of see a little bit of curving going on in this region. Let me see if I can bring up the 500 heights and vorticity. I'm just going to see what happens here. We'll do the balanced height field. And that'll take a second to come up. So hopefully there's no bad data in there. And I'm going to let it work here for a second. And I was going to go to that other product, the rapid refresh, and that's going to be under the the mesoanalysis graphics here. So let me bring that up, central plains, and we'll go to upper air. We'll have to do 300, and there we go. There's our plot showing the trough moving into Missouri. If we want to get the 500 millibar data, there we go. And these red lines, these are not vorticity. These are actually temperature, but we can see that the trough is pretty well dug in this area right there. So kind of lines up very well with these storms out ahead of it. And there's the digital atmosphere plot there showing the heights, and if we want to put the vorticity on there, first I got to figure out what menu I put that under. There it is. We want to do absolute vorticity, and there we go. So that's going to be the vorticity showing the trough maybe actually a little bit further east towards St. Louis at this time. And looks like a kind of a double shot. Here comes another bit of energy coming in from the east, from the west. So if there was a little bit more moisture flooding northward, this would be a good place for some surprise development. The problem is, however, we are quite dry at the surface. And there's those plots from SPC there, and you can see the dew points here are in the 30s and 40s. So it looks like the dry line, I think that dry line is pushed very far to the east. So we can kind of take an imaginary car drive from Oklahoma City. You can see dew points are about 20 there. You get out to Fort Smith, there are 33. We pick up 42 at Russellville and up to 62 just northeast of Little Rock. So yeah, our dry line is definitely pushed eastward quite a bit. That looks like the location at this hour, all the way to the Ozarks, and it looks like it arcs around up into the Topeka, north of Topeka area, around Holton. And then trailing that, there's going to be a cold front in there somewhere, and that looks like the cold front right there. That's going to be a Canadian air mass origin there. And then further north, there's going to be a warm front in there somewhere, and the way we find that is to work northward from the warm sector, and that's in this area of Arkansas here. So we go north 66, 64, 62, and then the temperatures start falling off to 49 and 39. So I think that cold front is actually a little further south than my other charts are indicating. So I think they're kind of in this area, and it's kind of merged with a dry line in this region. So that looks pretty consistent. 62 right there, dropping to 48 in this area. So that means that a lot of this activity here is likely elevated. So it's kind of riding on top of the frontal surface. Let me see if I could do a cross-section with digital atmosphere. I'm going to go from Little Rock to Chicago and see just what comes up here. So I selected the cross-section there, and the data is coming up, and got a slight memory error. That's probably because I've left this running. There's a small problem. Actually, let me see if that comes up. Hang on a second. Yeah. It's going to be another bug to chase there. Okay, we'll put that on the Midwest area. Go from about Manette up to Michigan. And we'll give that cross-section one more shot. And right now it's just analyzing all the fields three-dimensionally. And there we go. So I'm going to put up the potential temperature. And this goes from south to north, and you can see KUMN, that's Manette, Missouri. LSX, that's going to be around St. Louis, and then GYY, that's going to be Gary, Indiana. And you can see this packing of the potential temperature lines, indicating that our warm front is going to be down in this area here. So we can actually visualize that warm front there. Looks like it's on the ground just northeast of Manette. So probably up near past Branson, up in that region. And then it goes aloft like that as we go northward. So obviously those showers are kind of riding over the top of that warm front, kind of like that there. So yeah, you could certainly get maybe a little bit of severe out of that. Doesn't have to be, you know, a warm front like this is not really going to mess up tornado potential unless it gets like really deep there. But let's see, that's going to be about 4,000 feet deep. So yeah, that would probably, at that depth, that would probably preclude tornado formation. It's when we're a little closer to the frontal location, that's where we can have potential for tornado development when you're closer to that warm front. All right, so let me erase that. Let me just bring up the winds there. Winds aloft are kind of weak. This is along that plane there, looking at about 10 to 15 knots along that plane. And if we want to actually plot the absolute winds, let me just do that real quick. So these are the actual winds as they're observed from the radiosonde. Up is north, and these are westerly winds here, these are southerly winds, just as you would read it on a chart. So that's what I've got plotted here. And we can see that the winds in the lower and mid levels are pretty weak, and you have to get all the way up to about 18 to 25,000 to get into the 40 to 50 knot winds. So that's going to give you kind of HP-ish structures there. And that's going to cause problems with storm organization there. Winds are a little bit stronger as you go to the south there, but not very much help. So that's kind of the situation, what's happening there in Missouri. And things should start shutting down as we lose heating in this area. So the activity should continue to be elevated for the rest of the evening. All right, let's look at the thermal structure here. We'll go up to the GFS, bring it up to the current time. And this helps us kind of reinforce our analysis. It does look like that warm front is about where we expect it, from just north of Manette down to Blytheville. And if I compare that to what WPC had plotted, yeah, I guess that's probably not too far off. I might go a little bit further south, sort of in that area right there. So we're just kind of building consistency. The cold front comes back, and it looks like that hooks in somewhere in here, I think, around El Paso, northwest Mexico. Looks like it is in New Mexico somewhere at this hour. So somewhere in here, probably a cold front. Let me see if I can place that. We'll do that by using potential temperature. And looks like it's a little bit smoothed. I'm not sure if that's going to do it. Let me go to SPC. I'm not sure we're going to get any help at SPC either, but I'm going to use the southwest sector here, and we'll go to the velocity tensor magnitude product. And what this is showing us here is the warmest air mass at the surface is concentrated in this area here, just west of El Paso, extending just west of the Rio Grande Valley in New Mexico. And only when you get west of there do you pick up the gradient, and that's this zone in here. So that's probably the cold front coming in through the Rockies. So because of that, I would place the cold front kind of like that right there. Looks like it's crossing from Arizona into New Mexico, and kind of weak at this hour, I would think. And I would imagine it probably connects up like that to Colorado. And there's the back side of that front there. Probably a quasi-stationary front. So that's kind of how we find those boundaries when we get into the higher terrain where it's more challenging. So two lows there, and the main cold front still hanging back at this hour. And looks like maybe a secondary boundary up in Nevada. See this packing of this velocity tensor magnitude product. That's indicating something is going on there in Nevada. And there is the packing of the potential temperature. So I would certainly put a boundary in there, in that region right there, and watch for possible development in that region. And it looks like that extends southward. Could be a secondary front in there of some kind. So let me switch back over. So this is kind of the process of putting everything together, building consistency, and I have not looked at any data before coming in. I think that's a little secondary front kind of hanging back in that region right there. Okay, so another thing to add to your analysis. Okay, at this time, I think we can head on to the satellite. And there's what's happening out west. That's that system out there, and looks like we do got a bit of a baroclinic shield in Nevada and into the Great Basin deserts, kind of in that area right there. And then down to the south, it looks like we pick up the subtropical jet and what looks like a possible wave riding over the top. Could be an artifact, but that also could be a little wave. Okay, let me take a look at chat again. I'll just have to kind of skim this to keep us going here. Got Ryan Toomey's here, says Central Missouri had a minor tornado day running for a short period of time. And Monday and Tuesday looking promising for Dixie-Yowie states. Greg Schultz is here. Says, greetings, weather geeks. And I was thinking about the tornado thing over the weekend, and the fact we're kind of busy in here tonight. I think I'm probably going to come in tomorrow and try to do some mesoscale analysis with paper charts, and we'll just kind of see how that goes. I'm not really too sure how I'm going to do this. I may just come on randomly, or I may come on like at even hours and just broadcast for a little while, like 2 p.m., 4 p.m., noon, that kind of thing. So it's still pretty early in the season, but I'm still kind of working on how we're going to do that. The one thing that I do know is I can't go on for like a solid 7-hour block. We're going to have to break it up somehow. But, it's kind of an experiment in progress, so we'll see how that works out. Paul Tikowski, a new name there. Good to see you there. Ryan is looking for a large winter storm approaching the northeast again for a few days. Will the cap limit severe convection on Sunday in North Texas? Not sure yet. I haven't gotten to those charts yet. Usually the first thing that I look for is whether there's the moisture, because to really work with that cap there, we have to have a lower layer of moisture. And if that's not there, then the cap is kind of a moot point. So we'll just have to see. Weather Service MOS forecasts. You can get MOS data on the INSUP site. And there's also the LAMP and I think a couple of other systems you can use. That's good for aviation weather and that kind of thing. Burl H says, thanks for the cross-sections. Fun with Tech has got a product there, model. Okay, that's probably going to be the MOS data. Winter hanging on up north in northern Indiana. 35 degrees, graupel and snow showers up in Brett Dean's area. And very good. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on and start slanting things toward the forecast. Okay, there's our lookout in the eastern part of the country. Just the usual subtropical cirrus. We've been seeing that for a few days. And then up north, you can see that upper level low and some patterns associated with the surface system there. And there's another look at it. You can see the convection out over Missouri. This is with that marginal convection that produced a couple tornado reports in that area. So that's moving up into Missouri, up towards Quincy, and out past East St. Louis there. And then out west, there's that baroclinic system there, very well-defined shield across Winnemucca, Austin, and just east of Burns, Oregon. Okay, so what's going to happen over the weekend? I think a good way to do this is with the upper analysis. So this is the current chart here. The troughing is well up to the north, and we've got kind of a channel jet up in that area. That's indicating where the jet stream winds are. In Texas, we've got ridging moving into this area. And then for tomorrow, ridging covering much of Texas. That's going to keep things shut down for at least a while. But we've got some upper level energy working into West Texas. This is around 1 p.m. So that's an area of lift coming into the area. That's about where the lift would be. So that's going to start some cap erosion going on. Let's take a look at how things are going to look like before cap erosion. I'm going to set this cursor around Eastland, Texas, and we'll bring up the forecast sounding from the NAM. So, yeah, this has kind of the look of a frontal inversion. It's probably not really what that is, but in any case, this here is the bulk of the cap that I'm looking at, and it looks pretty low there. So extending that down to the surface, We get about 77 degrees there, so it doesn't look very strong, really. And let's see how things look later during the day as the... wow, that wave really moves through pretty quickly. Let me put this on Dallas around 21Z. So what I'm getting an idea here is... what I'm getting an idea of is the cap strength, the depth, and... let's see here. That cap is not particularly strong. It looks like we could probably break that with about 82 to 83 degrees there. And some pretty decent cape there. So this does look breakable. Storm character. For that, we need to go to this photograph. And it does look kind of elongated there, so it looks like we will get some storm organization. 6-kilometer winds, 65 knots out of the west-southwest. So good bulk shears. Limited 0 through 1 kilometer shear, and the critical angle is kind of low there. That 0 through 1 kilometer vector, it's kind of indicating that we don't have a really good hook appearance to that sounding there. And then let's see what else. Not a very strong low-level jet. You can see the 1 kilometer winds are kind of weak, 15 knots out of the southwest, just increasing gradually up to 20 knots at 3 kilometers. So that is going to be a problem there, not only in terms of moisture advection, but also setting up the shear fields across Texas. So this would indicate kind of a multicellular day if we were able to break the cap. All right, so that wave will be moving across Texas. It looks like it's phased fairly well with the heating. You can see that crossing North Texas during the afternoon. So I think we do have a little bit of storm potential tomorrow, probably in that area there. And let's look at the dew point field. Yeah, there's that moisture surging north. This is around 4 p.m. Looks like a little bit of a mesoscale low southwest of Fort Worth. Moisture axis running from about Victoria up to Hillsboro, but not much further north than I-20, so I think we're probably maybe looking at just south of Dallas there. So we'll kind of watch that tomorrow. Probably things going up during the afternoon, and then moving into northeast Texas during the evening. And then going into the following day, warm moisture working its way northward. However, we can see very strong pressure falls up in the Texas Panhandle and western Oklahoma. So there's a strong southerly component there in the Panhandle, and what that's going to indicate is very limited convergence along that dry line. See the wind field along this line here. It's not really facing each other very well, so that could point to problems with initiation depending on, let's see how that cap looks. Hang on. Not very well capped. It's pretty much a straight shot up that temperature line there. So this kind of points to maybe kind of a linear mode of development. So down in Texas, yeah, not a whole lot of capping there. However, look at the limited moisture. So things are going to be kind of high-based, I think, for Sunday. Let me get a little bit further into the moisture field. Yeah, okay, now we got more moisture, but it's shallower. Only about 1,000 feet of moisture there in the Dallas area there. So that, yeah, so weak cap, limited moisture. This is indicating probably kind of elevated stuff and somewhat linear, but I guess it's good practice chasing for this spring. So let's put it together and look at the NEM forecast. Okay, here's Saturday. So yeah, the convection moving very closely with that upper level wave there. NAM going for development mostly down around Brownwood, moving up through Hillsborough and then up to Tyler and Longview by evening. And then looks like a second round coming in around dusk into Fort Worth. Okay, so we got some stuff to look forward to tomorrow, and it shouldn't be too severe. And then for Sunday, looks a little bit less developed. So I think this is pointing towards moisture issues. But for Sunday, we can just kind of check things out tomorrow and see how things are looking. Okay, then the front comes in for Monday. There it is right there. And that'll move into Missouri, Arkansas, and Louisiana for Monday and Tuesday. And then cold air advection sweeping back in for Monday night. And then we can see some redevelopment further out in Tennessee, in Alabama. There it is. So that looks a little bit more discrete than what we saw in Texas. So that would be kind of a signal there to look for a possibility of significant severe weather on Monday evening in that area. So Nashville and Huntsville, definitely keep an eye on the forecast. All right, let's go ahead and get into the medium range. And we'll just give you the surface chart since we're about 35 minutes in. Okay, come on. There we go. Thought I didn't put gas in my browser. It looks like it's going now. Okay, so here's the first wave moving into Illinois tonight. So it looks like a little bit of mixed precip in the colder air from Ohio to Illinois. And then we get that respite in Texas, maybe a little bit of thunderstorm activity along that inverted trough southwest of Fort Worth. So even the GFS is picking up on that. And then for Sunday, it looks like the tail end of the system comes out of the Rockies. GFS going for some activity east of I-35 Sunday night. Looks like some upslope flow up near I-70. So some heavy elevated convection up in that region. And then we're going to be watching that area around Tennessee on Monday. Right in that area there. Okay, so the cold air advection coming in behind. Should be kind of quiet for the middle of the week, and then the next system comes in from the Pacific. Crosses the Rockies on Friday. And it looks like this one emerges in the Central Plains once again. So it looks like it's going to be dry south of I-40. The Gulf opens up by the following weekend, the 25th. Or the, not the following weekend, the end of next weekend. And then, yeah, it looks like some fairly persistent southerly flow in kind of a warm front situation there, so possibly some thunderstorms along the Red River on the 25th. Bit of an MCS up north, and looks like another push of cold air coming in from the north there. So that aggressively pushes its way in. So we're shut down for that midweek once again, and I think we're back to, wow, that's a pretty good system coming in. Big O 1040 millibar high building southward. Looks like more winter weather from Iowa to Colorado to Utah. So we're going to have our work cut out for us on this webcast. And looks like a very tight, potent system there in Oklahoma for April Fools. And that gets to the end of the chart sequence. Okay, Carl Burkhoff says 25 people here, yet only 10 likes. Yeah, please hit that like button. I'm not too sure what that like button does. I think it might get us a little bit better page ranking, which would be good, you know. It's always good to have the crowds here. And Storm Spotter Apex says, too early to throw the word event for Monday evening for Alabama and Tennessee. Yeah, I would say it's too early, but I think by tomorrow we may come within range of most of the models here and have a much better idea of the nuances of Monday's system. I certainly wouldn't make a call this far out. Even Sunday is kind of sketchy, but I think tomorrow we'll probably have a much better idea how things are going to come together. Okay, and Sue reminds us that Easter is on the 1st. Okay, that's it for tonight. I appreciate you all joining, and I'll try to set up some sort of special coverage tomorrow. We'll see how that works out, unless things look like no thunderstorms or anything like that, and then we'll just do the usual 8 p.m. time. Anyway, hope you all have a good evening and a good weekend, and we will see you tomorrow. Take care.